Hey everybody, what is good? Jacob back here with you for another edition of the Pickup Test and Electric String Player. And today we're going to be doing the IR packs for cello and violin from 3 Sigma Audio. Also a quick apology before we start. As you can hear, I'm a little bit sick today, but we're going to power through this thing. We've been aware of these 3 Sigma Audio packs for quite some time, and there have even been a couple of reviews we've seen on YouTube by other string players. I have to say, listening to the audio samples on the company's website was a bit of a turnoff, particularly with the cello. But we wanted to make sure that you and our community got to hear everything on the market. And the truth is that this IR pack, or I should really say packs, as currently, as of the making of this video, there's 1 available for the cello called French cello, and 3 for violin, represent a really unique niche in the market. There's no other IR string library that really exists on the market right now that's designed to live in software. That means that you can simply plug these IRs in to whatever DAW you're running, like Pro Tools, Ableton, or Logic. And this can be really convenient as a home recording or sound design tool. It's always nice to be able to take a plug-in and manipulate settings after the fact or after you've recorded. And that's not possible, or at the very least, way less convenient when trying to record at home with a pedal like the Tone Dexter or the V-Sound. But even more importantly is the flexibility that this type of library gives you to integrate it with your pedals for live performance. If you use any type of multi-effects pedal these days, from Boss, Line 6, TC Electronic, Fractal, Kemper, Neural DSP, or almost anything else on the market, you probably have the ability to load IRs into your pedal already. In most cases, this could still theoretically allow you to get pretty good results without having to add any new hardware, which means power supplies, cables, and a lot of other rigmarole to your existing setup. Even those of you guys who prefer individual pedals on your pedal board can easily purchase an IR loader like the TC Electronic one or the Moore Radar, which has been on the market for forever. And it can be a very small investment, probably under $100 used on Reverb, where you could integrate this type of solution for yourself with an extremely small footprint. This is a big contrast to something like the V-Sound 2 or the Fishman Aura, which offers a fixed menu of IRs that you are forced to choose from, but uses a walled garden approach where you have to be running these IRs on their specific hardware. And the first thing I have to give 3 Sigma Audio huge credit on is the fact that when you purchase these libraries, as we'll see in a moment, they give you copies of these 5 IRs in virtually every format in terms of bit resolution and multiple lengths. There's even specific libraries that fit the Kemper Profiler's proprietary format, which is pretty progressive stuff for a string IR library. This makes utilizing these IRs a completely plug-and-play situation from the software to the hardware world. And that's really cool. The other huge plus factor for this library right off the bat is price. In 2023, you can barely get a cup of coffee in Los Angeles for what these guys are charging for their IR library. So if you haven't solved your IR needs elsewhere with a different piece of gear, like one of the ones we've reviewed, this price point makes these 3 Sigma packs a complete no-brainer. One of the unique challenges of reviewing any type of product based on impulse responses is that every instrument and every pickup it's married to is going to be a little bit different. In other words, before we even started listening to this library, we knew that it was probably going to work a lot better with some types of pickups and even some types of instruments a lot better than others. Self-generating IR pedals like the Baggs voice print, which we've reviewed here, and the Tone Dexter which we also reviewed here, compensate for this somewhat by adjusting to each individual instrument. But even with those pedals, there's a massive difference in performance depending on what's being plugged in. So when it comes to fixed IR libraries that can exist in hardware form, like the V-Sound 2 or the old Fishman Aura system, or in software form, like the 3 Sigma audio packs we're going to be reviewing today, what we're basically dealing with is kind of a lottery type approach, where you have IRs that have been created using different techniques, and we're hoping to find a really good marriage for the gear that both of these buckets or methods can yield good results. And it's important to say that one isn't better than the other. But it's also equally true to say that each of these have distinct advantages and disadvantages. And we're going to talk about those today. And now I'm going to share my screen with you guys so we can really dig into these packs together on the computer. Okay everyone, so here I am in my DAW of choice. It's Logic, and what I'm going to do is give you guys a basic lay of the land here for how you can use this IR library, and that's why no matter what instrument you play, if you're a cellist or a violinist, violist, stick around the first part of this video as I give you the basic overview, and then I'll put timestamps. So what I've got up here, it's going to work the same way for everyone. I've got some different pickups, starting with violins here, and every performance was simultaneously recorded with a mic and a pickup. And for both violins and cellos, I've got 2 contrasting pickups. So in this case, we've got a realist violin pickup, and this is a very kind of dark sounding pickup, not a lot of high-end information, and then a Bags bridge, and in that case, the Bags, you know, it's one of those kind of bridge piezo pickups. It's very high-end forward, you know, one of those more sizzly sounding pickups that we're all familiar with. And what we're going to do here is I'm just going to switch between, I've got some different excerpts, you know, bowed, plucked, double stops, and let's just take a quick look at how to kind of use this IR library. Again, everyone hang with me here for a little bit, and I'll timestamp it for the cellist so you can jump ahead after this explanation is finished. As you can see, there's no processing going on, no plugins, no EQ, no reverb, no nothing. But for this particular track, for the pickup tracks, I'm in general going to have a little EQ. I'll get rid of this guy. This guy isn't going to be on, but I will be boosting everything 10 or 11 dB. So because these IRs are so much quieter than the original files, they just make everything sound incredibly small, and what I'm trying to do is volume match everything as best as I can, you know, within a reasonable range, because when we're switching between the mic and the pickup, you know, if something is a lot quieter, your ear is gonna assume that that sounds better, you know, whatever is louder. So everything's gonna have Pro Q3 in there just for a volume boost, and then let's check out the IR loader. So what we've got here is this is the impulsive loader, and it's really simple to use. Most of the controls are really straightforward. You've got an input and output, which I'll occasionally be boosting again just to give us something like a volume match. You know, there's width, you can load stereo IRs in here, and this is 3 Sigma's IR loader, but in almost any DAW I can think of, you can load the IRs into one of the existing stock plugins. You certainly can with Logic, and there's a lot of other things on the market available as well. But I like this one. It's really cheap. You can get it on 3 Sigma's website, and as we're testing those today, I thought I would just use this. So essentially, to get started, if we go, we can go up to our desktop here, and on the desktop, I've got, we'll start with violins. So I've got an Italian violin and their French violin library. They've got 3 violin libraries, but for now. And then we've got 3 folders. There's an acoustic one, and we have different sample rates. I've tried different sample rates, listening to them. I can hear no difference whatsoever. And if you're going to be loading these into a pedal and using them for something other than inside of your DAW environment, it's going to be 44.1 anyway. So just to save time and not make this a 10-hour video, everything's going to be in 44.1. Then we've got, oops, sorry, let me go back up here. Then there are electric files, and that's really interesting. I'm not exactly sure, having looked at the manual and everything, what exactly is different about those electric files, or what particular electric instruments they're for. There's just an electric instrument 1, 2, and 3. Like, it would be really cool if it said this is for NS or for Yamaha or whatever, but nothing like that. Sorry, guys. And then this is really interesting. They have one's IRs, I assume these, in Kemper profiling format. Can't believe there are that many violinists or violists or cellists out there that are using a Kemper, really designed to emulate amplifiers, which most string players are not that interested in. So anyway, that's available too. Kind of a cool little throw in there. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this video, but if you're with us so far, you probably noticed that there isn't content like this available for string players anywhere else online. The Pickup Test and Electric String Player is completely community supported. We don't take any sponsorships, don't run banner ads, and aren't a shop that sells anything. So if you could help us out, we'd really appreciate it by clicking like and subscribe below. Doesn't cost you anything. Thanks, and back to the video. As we go into the acoustic library, basically what we see is, and it's the same format with the cellos, guys, we've got basically 5 different IRs they've created. And I got in touch with 3 Sigma and asked them about what their process is like for creating IRs. There's, without nerding out too much, there's several different ways to do it. And they told me that they have some proprietary process they've created. I think I'm calling bullshit on that. With 1A, B, and C here, according to their manual, which is really simple and was super easy to use. I can show it to you. It's just 1 page long, which is nice, and very straightforward. As you can see here, A means just basic low end. B is lowers the low end, and C raises the low end. So this is something you could easily do with any EQ that you have in your DAW, or if you're using your an effects processor or an IR loader, there's probably going to be a bass knob, but they sort of do it for you here. And maybe if you have an incredibly simple IR loader that doesn't have anything like that, maybe it's handy to just have them as presets here. You're on the gig, you want to adjust that a little bit, I guess. But anyway, that's the basics. That's what we're looking at. And you can actually see that here if I push just the flat violin, 1A here, and then if I go to 1B, you'll notice the only difference is that bass area dropped off a little bit, if you can see that. And then for C, I imagine it'll be boosted. Yeah, so going up to about, I don't know, 100. And it's strange that they've even boosted well below that, below the bottom frequency of the violin. That's usually not a good thing to do under any circumstances, because then you get knocking and stuff in the pickup. But, if you're just kind of changing EQ a little bit and quickly just throwing it into an IR library like this, that's probably what you're going to get. I doubt there were too many violinists or cellists involved in the making of this library, so take that for what it's worth. One last thing before we start listening to some sounds here, and cellists, again, you can branch off at that point, is this is something that's notable. We've got the length of IRs, and this will allow you to go all the way up to 6,616. I think the tone dexter will go even higher still. But virtually every IR loader you use is going to be either 1024, 2048, or maybe like with the Helix, you can choose between those. Relatively short IRs designed for cabinets. In my recent interview with John Fields, he strongly believes that it doesn't matter. But we'll take a listen together through that in a control setting. But in general, we're going to be sticking at 1024. Again, if you use and are planning on throwing these into a stomp box or anything other than a very high-end IR loader like the Torpedo, what is that called? The French company, Torpedo X or whatever, then it's going to chop it to 1024 or 2048 anyway. But we will have a listen just for fun. And let's start listening to some sounds, violin and probably viola players. Okay, so starting with the realist. As you can see, we've got a couple of different excerpts, bowed, pizzicato, double stops. These were all recorded by the great Grammy-winning violinist Charlie Bisharat at the studio of Scott Frazier, where we do all our pickup test stuff. The microphone is an AKG Silver 414 that uses the brass capsule. Let's just listen to the microphone by itself for a minute, shall we? Very nice. And now we'll have a listen to the realist pickup raw by itself with nothing on it. And I'm going to take out the Pro Q because we won't need the volume boost yet. Yeah, so typical realist sound there, very dark, not a lot of information in the high end. You can hear a little bit of the bow changes when he really digs in. Very common with piezo pickups, including this one. Now let's have a listen to the first IR. And in order to add that, I just want you to hear this without the Pro Q really quick. Look how huge the volume drop becomes when you just add this IR. Pretty amazing, right? So just a word to the wise, you're going to need some type of serious headroom in your pedal or even, your DAW, which won't be a problem, but in your pedal to really get these back to regular volume. But just so we can compare at kind of comparable volumes, I'm going to turn on this Pro Q, which again is just, this is off right now, is just 11 dB of volume boost. There's no other EQing or fancy processing going on other than the IR. Okay, so now let's have a listen to the IR. pretty cool. Here it is without the IR. With. Pretty cool. And really important to note here that when I listen to the bowed sound, we don't want to compare it directly to the bowed because this wasn't modeled off of the bowed, this specific instrument, right? It's modeled off of some random Italian violin, right? And it wasn't EQ'd specifically for this pickup, right? So it's not really fair to compare it directly to the bowed sound, but to my ear, it's this IR is way more useful than just the pickup by itself, right? Also, when we listen back to the bowed, I'm hearing a bit of room. And we don't want to necessarily be emulating that with the impulse response, right? The impulse response is just for body resonance. So just like most rookie violin players will dial in way too much reverb and way too much delay when they're dialing things in at home, and then everything sounds washed out and doesn't cut at the gig. Similarly, this is just for body resonance. I can always take this and turn on some reverb here and add that later. I guess that's more of a hall sound than the room sound. But again, I could use reverb to get closer. That's not really what we're trying to do. So I'm just mentioning that because I want you to wrap your ears around that and kind of understand what we're listening for and what we're not listening for. Okay, cool. Now let's listen to this same impulse response, and we'll go through the bass cut 1B and the bass forward 1C and 1A again, which is just the flat one, just to hear what we like. I've turned off the reverb again. It's just the volume boost we need and the impulse response. So here's the flat one. Sorry, let's listen to that one more time. Okay, now here it is with the bass cut. And here it is with the bass boosted. The violin, this is really just affecting the lowest notes. Here's the bass boosted. To my ear, I like C. So now let's go and listen to some of the other excerpts, or the other, sorry, not excerpts, but we're going to listen to some of the other impulse responses. And yeah, and I'll just use the C version because I like that the most. yeah, a couple of those are pretty good. Very useful. And again, this is a much more complex kind of EQing scheme than you could dial in with, a regular multi-band EQ or a parametric or whatever might be available to you on a preamp DI or a mixing board. Let's listen to 3C. I remember liking that one quite a bit. And first, let's just hear the raw pickup sound and compare it to the impulse response again. Here's just raw realist. And here's the impulse response. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Now, one more thing to test, and then we'll listen to a very, very different type of pickup in the LR bags, which I'm sure a lot of you guys that fiddle use. Let's listen to these different lengths. Again, I had a great conversation with John Fields, an interview with him. Can't recommend it enough to those of you guys who are interested in delving more and understanding this world of IRs more in general. And if you're really trying to get the most realistic sound you can out of a pickup in 2023, you really need to understand this stuff, guys. It's worth taking a little bit of time to do that. Anyway, we had a big talk about IR length, and John doesn't seem to feel like it's useful past 2048. Again, most units you're going to use, if you want to use this live with an effects processor, multi-effect pedal, is going to cut it off at 2048 anyway. But just for fun, why don't we listen through and I'll change these, as it does give you the ability to hear different ones, and they're available in this library, which is kind of cool. Let's have a listen together, and I'll just progressively go up through each one, and then you can tell me what you think. I'll start at 64, the lowest resolution. Stay focused on the cursor here as I change. Okay, same excerpt, same realist pickup. Here we go, starting at 64. Okay, so to my ear,
at the very, very shortest lengths. There's just not enough time for the IR to work. Up till about 256, it sounded pretty much like the pickup to me. Then by 512, it sort of became a little bit more evident that the IR was there. I was hearing the tone shaping of this EQ curve a little bit more. And then 1024 I thought was perfect. 2048 I started to get a little bit more room. Maybe still useful there. And then by the time we got to the highest one, I could hear a lot of room. And maybe if you're using this for recording and it's a solo instrument and you like the sound of this room and you don't want to have that control vis-a-vis reverb or something like that, maybe. Maybe that's useful. But, we're definitely getting a lot of room, is my point. It's a ton of room there, and I wouldn't use that very often. Again, we want that body resonance. You may think, okay, the room sounds kind of good to me, and that's cool, but again, when you get to a club or something like that, even if you were running off your laptop and you could use this resolution, you're going to get a room in another room, which is the sound of whatever hall or club or coffee house you're playing in, and that's usually not great. That's usually going to kind of wash out your tone and not work that well live in the air. Again, maybe for recording, there's some utility there, and I'm glad they did include it. But to my ear, and you can tell me what you think in the comments, but 124 seemed to be a really nice length, and 248 might have some utility. 2048, sorry. Anyway, tell me what you think. Okay, now let's jump to a very different type of pickup here, the LR Bags. And the LR Bags is, as I said, much more high-end forward, much more of a kind of one of those kind of sizzly, nasally sounding pickups. And again, that's not always preferred by players, but that is generally what we need to cut through the band, that is. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to add Pro Q3. No tricks up my sleeve. I've just added a boost, an even more extreme one, 14 dB. Yeah, as I said, these are very quiet when added. But first, let's just listen to the mic. Again, this is Charlie, same setup as before. Okay, so now here is the Bags raw. And here it is with our impulse response. Let's start with the first one. Yeah, I can already tell we're going to get even better results with the Bags than we did with the Realist. These types of pickups tend to be better platforms. We'll see that even more with the cellos. But why don't we choose bass reduced or bass forward here with number one, and then we'll scroll through them. I don't mind A or C, kind of similar to the Bags. Why don't we stick with C, and we'll go through a couple of them. Yeah, I really liked 2, 3, and 4. 5 wasn't so good to my ear, but yeah, a lot of like very, very, very usable sounds there. Let's go back really quickly just for reference to the pickup by itself. Now, let's try it with 3. I mean, for live playing, especially if, you're not solo with a band, I mean, are people going to hear a big difference between you and, with that pickup and a mic sound if you've got an IR like that? I don't think so. Again, we could easily, if we wanted to, again, after the fact, if the room wasn't giving you enough of a reverberant sound and you really wanted, more reverb, and we're still able to cut through the band, a lot of ifs, right? You could throw on something like this. You could add some reverb to it if you wanted to. Let's hear it. I mean, that's that's pretty good. Yeah, so pretty promising results, and predictably, at least I would have predicted correctly, that pickups like the bags, those kind of more full spectrum pickups, or even those that give you sort of a boost in the high nasally and are going to be more successful than mid-rangey pickups. The realist, certainly, the band, some of the Schertler stuff, those aren't going to do quite as well. Although with the violin, I thought that the realist, there were definitely some usable IRs in there.
Well, that's it for now, guys. And please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to help us share this content with more people on YouTube.